Hi, guys. Welcome back to Subto Shauna. This is The Way, episode 49. Today, I have Nathan Turner on the show. Nathan has been investing in mortgage notes since 2008, and he hosts a DME. We're going to talk about what that is here in a little bit. He created Earnest Investing Company so that he could help educate and guide others in investing in mortgage notes. Welcome, Nathan.
Hey, thank you so much. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure. I've got a bit of a cold, so if I suddenly start coughing like crazy, then you'll know.
I didn't even notice.
All good.
So let's start with who is Nathan Turner? Give us a little background about where you've been and how you came to create Earnest Investing.
Yeah, sure. So Nathan Turner. So the thing that is probably most unique is I live in Canada. So I'm just outside of Calgary, Alberta. We're just on the west side, so that much closer to Banff, Alberta, which is as pretty as the pictures are. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. That should be a bucket list item for everybody. I got into note investing in 2009. Everything I do is in the US. And so 2009, I was introduced into this whole idea of being able to buy and sell mortgages. And I was like, well, that's an interesting concept. I'd never had heard of that. I didn't know you could do that kind of a thing. So when I first got started, it was actually in creating notes. So some creative finance and creating these notes. My idea was there's got to be a way that you can sell these contracts that we were creating. And I was kind of thinking of it as if it was like a turnkey rental. I'm like, I know you can sell a turnkey rental property. So this is basically the same thing, but in my opinion, better. So how do we get out of this? And kind of ran into this guy teaching classes down in Texas, went and took his class. And I'm like, oh my goodness, people do this? Like that's a thing. He introduced me to a conference called Noteworthy Conference. So I went to my first one in the fall of 2000, or no, it was earlier in 2009. Anyway, down in New Orleans, and went to that conference and totally blown away. There's hundreds of people in the room. All of them were talking about basically doing what I was doing, but on the buy side. So I was creating these mortgages and they were all talking about being able to purchase them. And I'm like, I can sell, like, really? There's a whole community of these? And that was kind of my introduction, and then just kind of went from there. And I've done all kinds of things since. For a long time, concentrated on defaulted mortgages and buying up mortgages where people were not making payments, because at the time there were a whole lot of those. And then most recently put together a fund where I'm back to buying creative finance, seller finance notes, performing notes into my fund. So it's kind of come full circle, which is sort of fun for me to think of. I'm going back and buying the thing that I started doing way back in the beginning. So that's kind of cool.
We've touched briefly on the note selling in the Subto community, but not really completely. And I mean, mortgage companies have been doing this forever, buying and selling each other's mortgage notes.
Yes.
All of a sudden you'll get a notice in the mail saying, hey, you're not going to be paying this person anymore. Now you're going to be paying this company. And you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
So how long have like the for lack of a better term, common folk been able to start buying and selling mortgages? Because before, I mean, most we know that the companies usually do it, but
yeah. Depending a little bit on what you're talking about. So like seller finance notes, you've been able to buy and sell those forever, for as long as they've been around, which you can go back in the Bible and find verses about buying and selling debts. Like it's been around literally forever. The bank specific
before
notes,
mortgages were.
Oh yeah, forever and ever. Bank specific, like actual bank notes, those I think you could buy them, but it really gained a lot of popularity back in like 2009, 10, 11, where banks were really struggling because they had thousands of these things that were not making payments. So the way it would typically go is these banks would sell to larger hedge funds. So they would do like, a $50 million, $100 million trade. And then those hedge funds were the ones that I was connected to, where the hedge funds say, we want everything in this box. Everything outside the box, we'll sell it just to get recapitalized and get back to work. because we just don't want to concentrate on it. Not that it was no good, it just didn't fit their box. So that's where me and people like me would step in and be like, I will take that stuff, the stuff that you're not interested in. And so in a roundabout way, we were buying from the banks, but not directly. They needed much bigger dollars than I had to be
So
able to
you
do
got
that.
in like pretty much in the beginning when it was really starting to take off.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And like I say, I started with these seller finance notes that I'd created. And so when somebody first told me, I took a class and they were talking about bad debt and being able to buy bad debt, I'm like, that sounds crazy. Why on earth would you do that? And the more I learned, and then I tried it, and I was like, that's why you do it. I get it
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Discounts, and especially back then, discounts were ridiculous. You can get stuff at 30 cents on the dollar, no problem, and do it over and over and over again because there's so many. So discounts were huge. Profit potential is huge. You could certainly do it wrong and not do well, but if you figured out how to do it right, man, oh man, there's a ton of opportunity. So
Yeah.
it's been fun. And there's the non-performing. There's not nearly as many of those in today's market, and those that are around, the pricing doesn't really make a lot of sense. They're far too expensive, but they still exist, and I think we're going to see more of those come on the market. But really, for today's market, the creative finance, Subto, all those kinds of things, that's really the way to go, I think.
Okay. So, how are the mortgage notes safe? You said something about foreclosure. You could foreclose on the properties.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we go to like today's market, anytime that I'm buying a note, I like first lien mortgages. That's my specialty,
Mm,
residential properties. So when I'm buying something, I'm always buying with at least a 25% equity spread between what I'm paying and the value of the property. So for some easy numbers, let's say the value of the property is 150,000. Um, there's a note on it. The outstanding balance is 100. Um, there's factors that go into that. How much, what's the interest rate is the biggest determining factor on what I'll pay. But let's call it $85,000. I pay that. So there's going to be a huge spread there between my purchase price at 85 and the property value at 150. There's a large gap in there. So if the person does quit paying, if I need to foreclose, if we have to go that direction, I take back a property worth 150. Even in a down market, let's call it 130, 125, 110. There's still an equity spread there for me.
okay. Um, so I forgot what I was going to ask. Have you had any that go wrong
Oh yes, definitely.
over the
Yeah.
past decade? A lot or a little? Like, what's the percentage? Or
Oh,
like,
it's not often. I would say, and this is specifically talking about with when I was buying non-performing. So the situation, and this will help kind of back it into how many go wrong. So the situation would be, I bought a non-performing note. We end up taking back the property. Let's say it was vacant. So we did a foreclosure, we take it back. And then it's only after we actually own the property that we can get inside. Once I own the property, now we get inside and we go, oh shoot. And it's, we thought it was worth 100 and it's worth maybe 60, you know what I mean? And so
oh,
that profit margin shrinks really, really fast. Rare. It's not often that would happen. I did a lot of foreclosures, and almost always the house was in decent shape. Probably not great, but not ransacked. It was, okay. Like we're talking, I don't know, 1 in 50, 1 in
so
75.
then what would you do in that situation? Would you sell it to investors who would take it and flip it?
Yeah, I typically, I'm doing this from a distance. I'm in Canada, so I'm not really interested in overseeing some kind of major renovation. So I would just sell it, get out of it for whatever I can. Usually I still would come out okay. But yeah, there were some times there where it was at a loss, which is fine. Sometimes that's how it goes and that's part of the game. And we get out for what we
Sometimes you
can.
win big, sometimes you win little. Same
Yeah.
thing for losses.
Yeah. And then we turn around and do it again.
So the percentage of the wins over the losses is got to be really good for you to be doing well in this, right?
Yeah, and specifically with the non-performers. With the performing notes is a totally different story, where we're looking at buying notes where people are making regular payments. They've been in there for however many months, anywhere from 3 to 12 months, where they've been making regular payments. Those are far less risky, where I can get in and with fairly good accuracy, I can predict what that note is going to do over the next 2 to 5 years.
And so then the seller, if they decide they want to sell the house, your note would get paid off.
Yeah, that's right. So I encourage, there's been a couple of times, excuse me, where I would go back and approach the borrower, the homeowner, and say, look, whether it's to sell their property or just refinance with a bank. So here's a situation a few years ago where the rate of the note was sitting at around 9%. And then I approached him and said, look, I know your credit is decent. Are you interested in just refinancing at a bank? And here's what that would look like, by the way. Here's an amortization chart at 9%. Here's an amortization chart at 4%. And his eyes get all big and he goes, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So sure enough, he goes back to the bank and refinances and everybody
your note
wins.
gets paid off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Do you have, I mean, I'm sure you have a proven system, but do you just like buy and sell notes, or do you have like a course where you teach investors about this, or do you like partner with people? What all does your company do?
So my main business is just I run a fund. So
Oh,
I
okay.
go and look
Hedge
for
fund.
investors. Yeah. So I
Okay.
go and get investors. They invest into the fund. I go out and buy performing notes. They get a return. I get everything over and above that return, and everybody's happy. That's the main business. You mentioned the DME, the Diversified Mortgage Expo. That's kind of a side thing we do once a year. It's an annual conference all about note investing. Anything from those who are creating, those who are buying, those who are selling. We all get together and just swap stories and network.
Gotcha. Hold on one second. So tell us about the DME, the Diversified Mortgage Expo. You're the host for that?
Yeah. My wife and I took that over a few years ago. 2025 will be the 10th anniversary for this conference. So that's kind of exciting. It's the third year that we're running it, but it's been around for 10 years. And so really, it's really a lot of fun. We get together. Note investors are just a really fun group of people to get together. The night before the conference, we do an axe throwing tournament. We just get to be able to hang out and learn together. We have speakers from all different walks, the different niches within the niche of note investing, telling us about what they do and how they do it, and all kinds of things. Nobody's allowed to pitch anything. It's just straight up learning, networking.
Sharing
Yeah,
ideas.
sharing ideas. So it's a lot of fun. I quite enjoy it.
Here's the most important question. Is there an open bar?
Not kind of. There's not an open bar. We do like a networking reception the first evening. You get, I don't remember, it's 1 or 2 drink tickets. Same at the axe throwing tournament, you get 1 or 2 drink tickets, and then after that, you're on your own.
Yeah, we had a drink ticket situation at Squad Up, our first like big like business event in Subto.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. We got like 2 drink tickets, and
Yeah.
somehow I ended up with 10 or 12. And I'm like, how did I get all these tickets? Here, guys, get some. The bartenders were like, everybody come up and get your drinks at once. You're not coming back here 50 times.
Yeah. No, it's a ton of fun. We really enjoy putting it on. It's a lot of work, honestly, to do that, but it's so great to get together. We can do all kinds of things online and get to meet a lot of people that way, but it's really, connecting with your connections. And it just makes such a difference to be in person.
And it's great networking too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it held?
Vendors, other experienced people, like it's fantastic.
Is it a different location every year, or is it the same place in Canada or in the United States?
Well, since we took it over, we have settled on Nashville. So 2025, it's Nashville, May 2nd and 3rd. And that looks like it's going to be the date going forward, is that first weekend in May. And we'll go back to Nashville every year.
Nice. Okay. So the advantage, what was that?
So mark your calendar.
Right. May 2nd and 3rd in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a good excuse to go.
It's a lot of fun.
Right. So the advantages to doing note purchases. I was poking around on your website there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Retirement, hands-off investing. You don't have to, worry about toilets, tenants, or termites. Mm-hmm. 3 T's.
Yeah.
It's secured by real estate. You have fantastic returns, solutions for homeowners, established cash flow.
Yeah.
So, what else can you add in there?
Let's go with the story of why it's so great. So let's look at this one from a couple of years ago. It's that same one. So here's the rest of the story. There's this guy, he wanted to refinance. The rest of the story is this. He wanted to refinance and he was ready to do that. He went back to the bank and everything looked like it was all a go. The bank came out and did an inspection and said, look, you need a new furnace. What you've got in there just isn't sufficient. And it's not something we can't, get our insurance because the furnace in the house is just not up to par. So he's like, yeah, I get it. The cost for him to replace the whole furnace system was like $13,000. Oh, right. Not money that he had on hand, not something he could do. So he came back to me and he said, so here's the deal. Bank's ready to go, but here's the obstacle. I don't have that kind of money. So I don't know. It looks like we're stuck. And I'm like, so what you're telling me is if you had a new furnace, we could get you back on track and get this deal done. He says, well, yeah, I guess so. So I checked it out, make sure that's, it's all on par. And yes, was the real story. So I then can front that $13,000. We added it to the payoff of the loan. So now he's got a new furnace in his house. He's got a lower interest rate on his loan. I get paid off early, which means my return goes up. Bank's got a new customer. Win, win, win all the way around. That's just
okay. What did I miss? What did I miss? How did he get a lower interest rate? Did he refinance to get the?
He did. He refinanced. The bank's rate at the time was about 4%. The note rate that he had with me was 9%. So he got a drastically lower interest rate. So he saved a whole bunch of money being able to do it that way.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So it really is a win-win type of business. We're always looking for how we can work together and come up with a good solution.
How many notes do you currently hold, or do you hold them in? Do you have I'm not sure exactly how the hedge fund thing works. I just know that it's like a group of investors that get together and hold things. So does everything have multiple owners, or do you each have your own notes that you all belong to this fund together? Or how's that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the fund, the way that it works is it basically just creates one big pool. So the investor will come in with their, minimum for me is a 50,000 investment. So this guy comes in with 50, she comes in with 100, he comes in with 250, whatever it is, whatever the amounts. Mm-hmm. All that money just goes into one big pool. And then me as the operator, I go and say, okay, with this now, $500,000 pot, I'm going to buy this, and this. The investors all get their 8% return. And I'm able to go out and buy whatever I can buy, whatever I want to buy that makes sense for the group rather than one individual. Okay. So it's formed actually as a limited partnership. Anybody who comes in as a limited partner, and you just become part of this pool. And the advantage for the investor on that is because you're part of that larger pool, the more notes we have, the more that risk gets spread out. So if we've got right now, going back to your original question, right now we've got about 20 notes in there. Once we're fully funded up to 5 million, we'll have roughly about 100 notes. which I've done in the past, but with individual investors. So this is much more efficient. What that means is you've got 100 notes in that pool. Let's say 10 of them go bad. The people are not able to make payments for whatever reason. 90 of them are still paying. So the risk is completely spread out. I go in then and manage those 10 that are having issues. And most of the time we can get them back on track. Almost always, it's interesting versus the bank, right? You've got somebody who's in trouble. They've had some kind of life thing happen that's come up that has gotten in the way of making payments. Because I'm not a bank, I am far more flexible. And I can be way more understanding and say, okay, so what needs to happen then? How do we get you back on track? And whether that's adjusting the payment, whether that just means they need a month or two to get back on their feet, it can mean all kinds of different things. But I have the flexibility to say, given your specific situation, here's what we can do, and tailor it to make it work for them, and then also work for me, make sure that it works for both sides, and then we get back on track. So it's really rare that I need to actually foreclose on a person. The vast majority.
Because unlike banks, you're going to call them human to human. It has more of a human element to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
It's almost always when I'm doing a foreclosure, it's on empty property. And so, somebody passed away or they abandoned the property for some reason. Then I foreclose, but it's really rare that I foreclose on a person.
So do you mostly deal in single family homes, or do you do any multifamily or any, business buildings or anything like that?
Me personally, I'm just a residential guy. I like first lien residential mortgages. There's definitely opportunities for multifamily and commercial and hotels and anything that has a mortgage
RV
on it.
parks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Anything that has any kind of loan attached to it, that loan can be bought and sold. So there's opportunity everywhere, but my niche is residential first.
You're talking to the right audience here with the Subto community, because that's our main. I mean, we do it all as well, but the vast majority is the residential for sure.
And so it's specific for your community. This is why I'm excited to be on your show, because I've found that a lot of people that are doing Subto or any kind of creative finance, most of the time they don't know that they can sell their loan. Yes, you can. There's a whole group of us that would love to buy your note. So I would love to, have more communication and more contact. I can help you build the note to make it the most attractive, to make it where a note buyer, it becomes a no-brainer, and they can say, oh yeah, I'll buy that all day long. And then, we can do a ton of business together if we can get on the same page and just keep rolling it around.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So lots of people in the Subto community would either be able to invest in your hedge fund and be a member, and or both sell some of their creative finance properties that they're kind of trying to look to offload. We just had a and this is how you can get a hold of Nathan here and book an appointment to talk to his team to see how you can do whatever it is that you're interested in doing. Yeah. You can have a one-on-one appointment. But we just did a challenge where we had 102 teams with 10 to 12 newbies on each team.
Wow.
Where we all got together, and I was one of there's about 3 team leaders for each team. Okay. And I was the TC / operator. And then we had a coach, and then we had what we called a rainmaker for the software, and the main team leader.
Oh, very cool.
And we were trying to help all these new Subto community members get their first deal.
Oh, awesome.
So, and we're still, it just ended last week, and we're still going with the offers and stuff that we put in. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have to offload here eventually.
Yeah. And then come to the conference. Wait, if it's not me, it'll be somebody else. Somebody will buy it.
Oh, so there's lots of other hedge fund people that go to that conference too, besides your.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when we do a kind of a survey at the beginning, who's brand new, who's created a couple of notes, who's bought a couple of notes, whatever. I'm really surprised at how evenly spread out it is. We've got just as many newbies as we do people that have multi-million-dollar funds. Like it's fascinating to me to see that kind of diversity come together and just network and hang out together. It's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So you do consultations. Is that like a consultation to like if someone's interested in investing, or just like what kind of consultations do you do?
We're using fancy words there. I'm very happy just to
From
chat.
your website.
I know. The marketing guys. No, I'm really just happy to chat with people. If whether it's you want to do this totally passively and get into a fund, great.
Mhm.
Or whether you are wanting to do this actively and do it yourself, awesome. I don't have a course. You asked that earlier. Actually, we never came back to that.
Right.
I don't have a course, but I've got some really good friends that can teach you the business. And I would highly encourage you to take some courses to learn the business, because it's not real estate. If you've done real estate in the past, that's great. This is not the same thing. So
You
make
think
sure.
it's a lot easier? The note stuff, do you think it's a lot easier? Or
In some ways, yes. There's more. I would say there's more that you have to know in terms of like rules and regulations and things. Once you own a note, though, it's far less work than a rental, for sure.
is it mostly hedge funds that do this kind of note buying and selling, or
Not
are there
necessarily.
like
No,
there's
just
some
regular people, just regular individuals. You can buy them into your IRA. You can use your IRA to invest into funds, to buy notes, which is a really great thing to do. And then you've got that income coming straight into your IRA. That's awesome. So, I mean, there's tons of ways that you can do it, and there's niches within niches. So there's an opportunity for everyone, I think.
right? Or even anybody that's involved in infinite banking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work too.
Love
Whoa.
it. You okay?
Yeah, my screen just went black.
Oh, so you can't see me, but I can see you?
Yeah, hang on one
Okay.
spot.
Don't worry. We can cut this part out. I can cut this
Okay,
part
give me 1 second. I don't know if connection
out.
came
Okay.
loose.
I want to pause it.
Okay.
Okay. So, like we were discussing before, I think it was on the PBD podcast here recently that BlackRock is getting ready to release several $billion to buy up a bunch of, I don't know, notes or property. Do they do both, or do they just lend money out to investors and then make money off of the investors' purchases? Or do you even know? Like,
I'm not entirely sure, but I think they do buy notes. I know a lot of, so you'll see every once in a while there'll be like a Fannie Freddie announcement on, depending on what news you're watching or whatever. And yeah, I don't really watch TV anyway, but
right? Me either.
you'll see an article or whatever on Housing Wire or something that says a Freddie Mac pool sold, where the balance of the pool was whatever $100 million, and somebody just bought it for 95 cents on the dollar or something like that.
Oh, okay. So those were like all the houses that they had to foreclose on that were just kind of sitting there and they wanted to clean the books.
It could be all kinds of things. It could just be like Fannie Mae is just looking to recapitalize, so they sell off a bunch of loans. Like it happens all the time, where they'll just sell off a bunch of loans and then go out and issue some more. It's super, super common. A lot of the time it's done like as a security. So they'll bundle up, 200 loans and call it a security and sell it as a package. That happens a lot. That happened in the lead up to the big crash. The issue back then was they were calling it A paper, like really good stuff. And it turns out it was not. It was terrible paper where people were not making
Sneaky little sly sons of.
Yeah. that did not help the whole situation back then. But anyway.
No, it did not. Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners today?
I think specifically for this audience, like if you're doing sub twos, if you're doing creative finance, oh man, check us out. Me and everybody else like me, we're always looking for notes to buy. So absolutely, let's get together and see what kind of business we can do.
Absolutely. So we had that there for people to reach out and set an appointment and discuss what they can do. And then here are all the ways to reach Nathan
Yeah,
on Facebook and LinkedIn, and of course his website where you can find all the things,
yeah,
and they can send you an email as well.
yes, yeah. On the website there's a link to go to the Diversified Mortgage Expo website as well if you want to check that as well. But yeah, please reach out. Love to talk and consult.
Yes. So the Diversified Mortgage Expo, that's like a bunch of different hedge funds and note owners that.
Yeah, anything from individuals, brand newbies, people that have just barely heard about notes, all the way to people that have these multi-million-dollar funds.
Nice, nice. And you can learn things there and network and have some fun too. Make sure
Note
you get there
investors
the
are
day before when there's a open a bar.
right. Note investors are already super open, and then you get a couple drinks in them, and they'll tell you anything you want to know.
Oh, there you go. All right. Okay. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I
Hey,
really
thank you.
enjoyed this. You're
Yeah.
welcome. So I have a couple questions that I asked all my guests at the end of the
Yes.
show. And the first one is, what does success look like to you?
Ooh, great question. Success to me is it's been a changing definition over my life, actually. Um, I think that my most current definition is um, falling down and getting back up again. Where
Fail forward.
yeah, there's no such thing as there's never a too late. There's never a not enough. Like just keep going, keep going. That's success. And then that'll get to you to your goals. I think are different than your success. So have your goals and achieve your goals. As you do that, that is success. You don't have success once you've achieved them. I think that you have success as you reach for them.
Yeah. Failures are how we learn the most.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I love that. That's awesome. Okay. And the second question is, if you could leave our listeners and watchers with a piece of profound advice, potentially life changing in work or business, I mean, in work or personal life, what would that be?
Profound advice. I think I have to go back to answer A. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Never quit.
You're always going to have something come up. There's always going to be something that's not what you planned on. I mean, that's the definition of frustration is unmet expectations. We're all going to experience that, but just keep going, keep going, keep going.
I had this thing on my Facebook banner recently. It says, and I got it from Caroline Kane, who hosts one of the Zooms in our community. And I think she might have got it from Modiversity because she listens to a lot of that too. And it's, you can't lose if you never quit.
Yeah.
Because you're still doing it.
Yeah.
So you don't lose until you quit. Then you're defeated.
Right. No, just keep going. Things work out.
Love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. We'll
Pleasure.
have to check out that the Diversified Mortgage Expo for sure.
Yeah,
In
I would
Nashville,
love to have
Tennessee.
those. Yeah, anyone who's creating mortgage, anyone who's creating any kind of note, there's a market for that. So check us out.
Yeah, I'll have to give my community inside my community a sneak peek of this video.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. Well, hang back after the show and we'll have a little chat before we part ways. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.